just a rundown, the rundown, here's the rundown.
And I want to ask you guys this question: Are players even afraid to mess up anymore at Alabama? Because we're seeing these clips coming out of guys elbowing Castellos on the ground when you've got an opportunity to get off the field on third down. There's other clips circulating around the internet where you got safeties and guys in the secondary and even in the linebacking room who are half jogging in the middle of a play. And I want to get y'all's thoughts on that. What do you think that fear of messing up still exists within the team right now?
Right now, I mean, I have to say it's not there. You look at all the mistakes that these guys made. Some of them just come down to lack of discipline. Since Coach DeBoer has been ahead of Alabama, other teams have outgained them, I think, by like 200 plus yards just off penalties alone. And so when you see that level of consistency, lack of discipline, that means either the players don't respect the authority or there's, for some reason, the standard has been dropped when it comes to holding players accountable for how they go out there and perform.
Yeah, it's definitely not there. I mean, I spoke about this last season on our pod where it just doesn't seem like the players fear DeBoer. Obviously, he's a great coach, but on the West Coast, it's a bit different than the SEC. And when Bama's had the standard of having a coach being hard-nosed and being tough on them at all times, to go from a coach that's fully mellow, it just doesn't seem to translate. Obviously, DeBoer, that's his style of play, but it's obviously not working because the players just, it's just a total non-fear factor when they're out on the field.
Yeah, it's just, it's crazy to look at because, I mean, and I know I harped on this too a lot last season, during some of our episodes that we were coming out with and dropping here on Touchdown Alabama's YouTube. But, I'm always a big advocate of the games won and lost in the trenches, and with the amount of effort that you put forth and with the amount of talent that this Alabama team has, there's no excuse for you to not be putting forth any effort because you've got everything out in front of you, right? Like you've got everything to play for. You've got a clean slate. Obviously, last year you didn't finish the way you wanted to. Even despite some of the hiccups early on in the season, you had a chance to still make the SEC championship, make the college football playoff, and you literally played your way out of it in a game similar to what we saw this past weekend, where you were a double-digit favorite on the road and you just came out flat. And I think that's the thing that for a lot of Alabama fans who watch this game, it's not that I don't think people are panicking and freaking out about the fact that Alabama lost. I don't think anybody going into the year expected this team to be perfect. I don't think anybody going into the year expected these guys to finish the year 17-0, SEC championship, national championship. But I think what Alabama fans are expecting is everything that the coaching staff has been putting out and the agenda that they've been pushing all offseason, where they're saying there's a fresh mindset. These guys, there's a different mentality going into year two. Obviously there were, not everything went the way you wanted it to last year, but now, hey, you're 0-0. It's a clean slate, like I talked about a second ago, and everything that you want is in front of you. And so are you going to take it and are you going to make teams respect you and fear you? Or are you just going to go out there and expect teams to lay down the moment you step foot on the field just because you've got that script A on your jersey? No, that respect has to be earned year in and year out. And I think that was the thing that that made Alabama such a great program for the last 2 decades when they were under Nick Saban, was those guys, it didn't matter if they were 40-point favorites or if they were underdogs. They were going to go out there and they were going to put the fear of God in you. And that's the thing that I think is really making a lot of Alabama fans second-guess DeBoer right now, is the fact that the product that you put out there and the lack thereof of effort, it was just evident. And from start to finish, you got dominated. You were the one that was getting punched in the mouth, and you weren't being the aggressor.
Yeah, and it's very interesting how you talk about the build-up coming into year 2 for Coach DeBoer. I mean, we all knew there was high expectations. Everybody gave him some grace because the first year, it's his system. It takes time to implement that. But when you talk about something like effort, that can be changed because that's just how hard you can get your players to play and how bad they want to go out there and do it for each other and for themselves and for the community. But we talk about something like discipline. I feel like that's something that is trained and learned in the off season, right? I don't know if you can just flip that switch and turn that on in the middle of the season. We'll see if they can correct that and become a more disciplined team, especially in big moments. But obviously there's never an excuse for effort and send players out there jogging or not focused or not everyone fully engaged, or you even look at the sideline, even the players on the field at times, you don't see that passion or that hunger to be the best out there. I mean, Alabama has dominated for so long. They were the gold standard of college football. Everybody who plays them wants to beat them. They're the hunted, and they don't play like they have a red dot on their head. They don't play like everyone's coming for their neck. And when you do that, you can get embarrassed, as they did this past Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I want to ask, do you guys think DeBoer needs to change his coaching style in terms of, obviously he's a mellow guy. Does he need to turn into somebody that he's not, or should he just stick with the same tone? Because obviously, I believe the way he's going about, obviously, players are obviously feeling like they can do whatever they want to do on the football field.
I think when Alabama hired DeBoer, you knew what you were getting. And this to me is a little irritating when people bring this up, is when you hired DeBoer, you knew that he was the polar opposite of Nick Saban. Now, does that mean he's a bad coach? Absolutely not. Because he went to Washington and he turned that team around in a matter of 2 to 3 years and had them in the national championship game right before he took the Alabama job. He did it at Sioux Falls. He did it at Indiana. He turned that program around. So I don't think if you're DeBoer, you need to change your whole entire coaching style. He's been coaching this way since the moment he entered the coaching landscape, ever since he first started coaching college football. I think for me, it comes down to evaluating the talent and putting your guys in a position to be successful and really letting it be known what the standard has to be. It's not just going to be handed to you. So for me, I don't think it's necessarily I don't think his coaching style is the problem. I think it's enforcing what it is that he's wanting when it comes to the mentality that he wants his players to play with. You have to beat that over these guys' head over and over again. Again, these aren't NFL guys. I mean, some of them are going to end up playing in the NFL, but a lot of these kids are coming out of high school. These kids are 18-year-olds. They're 21-year-olds, And so you've got to this is what Alabama hired Kalen DeBoer to come do. They hired him to come in and to implement the same exact things that he was using to have success at Washington and to turn around Indiana from being a nobody program and when it came to football. But Destin, I'll let you speak on that.
I might have a different perspective than that. I mean, of course you want whatever makes a coach a good coach to stay true to themselves. But if you see something isn't working, then you have to change something, because if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get the same results. So whatever principles that are valuable, we should stand on those, and he should keep implementing those. I'm sure he probably pushes the message that discipline is important, but obviously that isn't exemplified in the ways that the players perform. That type of thing you do want to stay consistent with. But everything else, you should be able to adapt. The best coaches, the best minds in football are able to change and adapt with their environment. This is not Washington. This is down south. Like they say, we got meat and potatoes down here. It's a completely different conference and a completely different league. You can't, if what you're doing isn't working, then you can't expect that to just all of a sudden start working. You got to change something very quick. And if you're unable to do that and the results don't change, then you're just not compatible with the system that we have going down in Tuscaloosa. And you're not going to be here for very long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's, I was going to say something real quick and I'll let you talk, JP. I think it all just stems back to that fear factor that you have, right? Like your players, if you want them to play up to the standard and the level that you expect them to in order to compete for a college football playoff spot, a national championship, it all starts at the top. So there has to be that fear factor. And Johnny Manziel brought up something on the Nightcap show with Shannon Sharp and Ocho Cinco, and he talked about, teams don't fear Alabama anymore, right? Like that fear factor that used to be there when teams used to step on the same football field as Alabama, like all week long and all throughout the offseason, you used to dread having to play against Alabama. That's not there anymore, and if you're Kalen DeBoer, I think you more so just have to focus on, you have to have the respect of your team if you want to have the respect of everybody else around you in the country. It all starts with your own team. If you can't command respect from your own players, you better not expect them to go out there on Saturdays and to be implementing all the things you've been teaching them all off season. So, I mean, for me, I think that's kind of where I stand when it relates to that. But JP, you can expand on that.
I mean, I think I'm with Destin. I think you have to adapt and change. I'm not sure if that's something that he's willing to do or not, but I think we've seen a good enough sample size to where they seem to struggle against unranked opponents. I don't know, they're overlooking teams and saying, hey, we're Alabama and we're going to run through this team. But they seem to play better against ranked teams than they do against the unranked ones. And you're supposed to keep the same mentality regardless of who you're playing. But it seems like they'll get up for Georgia and Tennessee and then lay down for Vanderbilt and teams like Florida State, who obviously Florida State seems to be a better school than they were last year, obviously when they only won 2 wins. But still, obviously, we know Alabama seems to have the better roster, and there was no indications of that at all Saturday.
And I think it all kind of ties back to accountability, right? You know, before the pod, you know, Destin, what was that stat that you had mentioned about the penalties?
Yeah, so according to ESPN, I think Alabama has equal or more penalties than all of their opponents in every game that Coach DeBoer has coached. Even in this last one, I want to say Bama had twice as many penalties. Florida State had 4, and Bama had 8 for 80 yards. So, and I think Florida State had 40 yards worth of penalties. So every game that Coach DeBoer has coached, Bama has either equaled or had more penalties than their opponent.
See, that's where I'm coming at. So I think it's more so about the culture. This is a culture problem. I don't think it's a Kalen DeBoer personality problem when he's out there on the sidelines. I think more so it's a culture problem from within, because if you got guys that are constantly doing the same things that they were doing last year, dating back to the Vanderbilt game, where you got guys making boneheaded decisions that are uncalled for, unnecessary, that are giving teams free first downs, and a year later we're still talking about the same thing, that goes back to the culture to me. I don't think Kalen DeBoer has to switch his coaching style. Obviously he has to make adjustments, and obviously something's got to change. But I think more so it's accountability. It's accountability, and it's keeping these guys under the needle. Like you've got to make sure that you get these guys accountable in practice, and it's a reoccurring theme throughout practice. So that way, when it comes time when you're under the Saturday night lights, it's secondhand. You don't even have to think about it. You're not thinking about elbowing a guy while he's on the ground. You're not thinking about shoving the dude's face mask into the ground when the play's dead and you give him an extra 15 yards. You're not worried about getting in an extra late hit after a first down run. You know, I think those are the things I'm more concerned about, more so than, is Kalen DeBoer, is his personality isn't the right type in order to get these players to fall in line. It's more so, look, you just got to go. You got to implement it, you know. And he's obviously not the same guy that Nick Saban was. He's not going to be screaming in guys' faces after every single mistake. But he's a different coach, and we all knew that coming in when Alabama hired Kalen DeBoer a year and a half ago.
Yeah, I also think. Sorry, Destin, to cut you off.
No, you good. You good.
I also think social media is a big factor. I mean, you got guys on TikTok. We got guys vibing out to the headphones before the game. You got guys doing podcasts. Like, don't get me wrong, it's great to do the podcast, but how focused are you once the game gets here? Like, are you fully locked into the game, or are you thinking about other stuff? Are you thinking about what you're doing after the game, or what you go do for a party Friday night? Like, are you fully locked into the game? Because with Saban-led teams, you were. And it seems like now, obviously, when Nick Saban was on the rise at Bama, at least from the start, social media wasn't prominent. There was no TikTok. There was no Instagram Lives. There was no podcast. So I think that's another factor that's factoring into a lot of this. It just doesn't seem like everyone's locked into the game itself.
It's so funny you say that, because I remember in the offseason, or like right before the season, you seen all the guys. Of course, our biggest face at the moment, our biggest star, Ryan Williams, is the one head of all the TikTok stuff. you see him doing his little dance, and you're cool with it because you're like, I think he's going to perform. And you see them all kind of like playing and having fun, which is nothing wrong with that if you perform. But looking back on that and seeing how they came out and play, you're like, oh my goodness, can you please just change the entire viewpoint and culture that we had going into this season? It's like your focus has to be on, especially coming off the season we did last year, getting better. Seeing a lot of people saying they don't see any improvement there or any changes in the culture. And it's like the distractions, we got to cut those out. And I want I understand where Eli's coming from with, you don't want DeBoer to change his style, because that's hard to ask a coach to do, to change what got him his job. You basically tell him to deviate from that. But like I said earlier, if it's not working, then you have to. His demeanor has always, this is ever since he first started coaching for Bama, he's always came off as a guy who doesn't want to seem like he's trying to live up to Nick Saban's standard or whatever. Like he doesn't want to seem like it's affecting him. Like you look at him and he has the same face no matter what's happening at all. And it gives off the impression that he doesn't care as much, which I wouldn't say that. But you want to see that passion and you want to see him emote when you see his team performing the way that he does. And then it's very demure, very laid back and very chill. And it's like, are you trying to act like you don't care as much? Or are you trying to act like it's not getting, like the moment's not too big? Like you're not thinking about the shoes that you have to fill? Or are you trying to like put that on everyone else because you're just projecting? Like, show that you care. Like, we want to see that you care how these guys, we want to see that you're involved and that there's a real relationship with you and the players. It just feels like you're out there trying to manage them like a manager, and people out there that don't even, you know what I mean? You want to feel that love and passion for the sport and for the desire to win. I just don't see it.
Listen, it was one play last season. There was a pass interference and he straight went off on the ref. He needs to do that when a guy hit a guy out of bounds. Hit a guy while the guy's on the ground. Extend the drive when the drive was supposed to end. When guys are doing half routes and dropping balls and all that stuff. Because I've seen DeBoer, I'm like, I don't think DeBoer has that mad side about him. And when they didn't call a pass interference on one of the DBs on Ryan Williams, he exploded. He needs to do some of that when some of his players make some mistakes. So I think DeBoer has it in him because I've seen it. I only seen it once. But if he did it against the ref, he can do it to his own team when they make mistakes. So I think he can do it.
It's a run down. It's a run down. It's a run down. It's a run down. It's a run down.